everyone. Welcome to the debate of RT. I am Christine Ann Oborha and I will moderate this session. I would like to introduce Miss Lara Jewel Agustin, who is here to help us out.
Greetings everyone, I am Lara Agustin. I will be your timekeeper and my job as a timekeeper is to remind everyone how much time they spent on their speech. When the speech has lasted long enough, the speaker will be told that their time has come to an end, allowing the next speaker to speak.
Thank you, speakers. The following will be used to determine the winner of this debate: understanding of topic, organization, arguments, evidence, rebuttal, delivery, and teamwork. Each category is worth 4 points for a total of 30 points. Now we will begin the match. Teams, from this point on, there are no substitutions, consulting with anyone other than your teammates at the table, or reviewing outside materials. Each team is given 2 minutes to present their case. The case for this debate is same-sex marriage. Let's begin the match. Team Affirmative will be the first to speak. Team Affirmative now has 2 minutes to make its presentation. Any member of the team may speak one at a time.
Good day. I'm here together with my team to defend our side as we agree to the legalization of same-sex marriage in the Philippines. Same-sex marriage is the practice of marriage between two men or two women. Although same-sex marriage has been regulated through law, religion, and custom in most countries of the world, the legal and social responses have ranged from celebration on one hand to criminalization on the other. Philippines should adopt same-sex marriage because allowing same-sex marriage would enable gays and lesbians in the Philippines to marry the person they love and would strengthen everyone's rights. From a human rights perspective, broadening civil marriage to couples of the same sex demonstrates respect for fundamental rights of equality and non-discrimination. It should be enshrined in Philippine law. The Philippines should join countries including the United States, South Africa, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, Uruguay, New Zealand, Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, and Ireland, all of which have enshrined marriage equality in their laws. In Asia, lawmakers in Taiwan are mulling a draft law that would legalize same-sex marriage. Same-sex relationships have already significantly altered family law by leading to a new formal relationship statuses and incorporation of the principle that both of a child's legal parents can be of the same sex. We like to pinpoint that segregation is not equality. Even though the legal rights and responsibilities of civil partnership and marriage are almost identical, the two are not perceived as equal of status and value. Civil partnership is seen as a legal contract, while marriage is seen by many as the gold standard for celebrating the joy of love and commitment. Marriage is very widely understood for its symbolism and its personal, community, and in some cases religious significance. Civil partnership was invented specifically to deny same-sex couples access to marriage and is seen by many same-sex couples as a second-class status.
Time is up for Team Affirmative. Team Negative, you may now have up to 2 minutes to comment on Team Affirmative's presentation, and each of your members may speak one at a time.
Good day. I am here together with my team to address the side of opposing the legalization of same-sex marriage in our country. We would like to state first the Family Code of the Philippines established on July 6, 1987 by the former President Quezon C. Aquino, stated in Article 1 that marriage is a special contract of permanent union between a man and a woman entered into in accordance with law for the establishment of conjugal and family life. The Philippines does not offer any legal recognition to allow same-sex marriage. Thus, many have attempted to legalize same-sex marriage but Congress dismissed it. We would like to pinpoint our case on three grounds. First, what is marriage all about? Second, options for same-sex couples to have. And third, the civil rights of the Filipino people in terms of having a marriage, mostly to the members of LGBTQ plus community. Marriage is basically the legally or formally recognized union of two people as partners in a personal relationship. Historically, and in some jurisdictions, especially a union between a man and a woman, as what is also stated in the family code of the country, and has a deeper meaning than that. There are two options for a same sex couple to deepen their partnership in the country. They can have either a civil union or a domestic partnership. Thus, these two are still in process and soon to be approved by the Congress. I'd like to clarify first that we are not against of same-sex couples and that our country can give them the same benefits as married couple have like sharing property and adopting a child. Filipino lawmakers are also encouraging people to practice having civil partnership as it's also an issue of civil rights of people, mostly to the members of the LGBTQ plus community.
Time for the affirmative team.
In defense to Miss Alvi's stand, it is truly that same-sex marriage never goes out of the choices when debate topics are presented. But in the first place, same-sex marriage should not be a matter in question. As a part of the LGBTQ plus community, I believe it is a basic human right to have an equal access to marriage regardless of sex and gender. If same-sex marriage is totally inappropriate or forbidden, then why would 30 countries in the world, including the United States, which is considered as the greatest country in the world, have legalized same-sex marriage? I personally believe that it should be legalized. Why? Because marriage is a personal and a private matter, and I believe that society should not intervene on that. Yes, they have established certain rules, which is okay, but they should not be concerned with who to marry whom and who loves whom. I strongly believe that everyone, regardless of their circumstances, deserves an equal right. Marriage is not solely just for a man and a woman. It should be accessible to every individual the world has, in contrast to Miss Alvis, who presented the Family Code of the Philippines stating that marriage is a permanent contract only to a man and a woman. We should give everyone choice to be happy and have a legal binding. A rule of same sex or gender should have the same right should be submitted. The sexual preference of people should not determine their acceptance in society. People and laws should be open to understand the marriage of two individuals in the same sex. I deeply vouch for allowing same-sex marriage in the country to allow gays and lesbians to marry the person they love while also strengthening everyone's rights. Expanding civil marriage to couple of the same sex displays respect for the fundamental rights of equality and non-discrimination from a human rights perspective. Same-sex marriage should be made a part of Philippine legislation because marriage should be based on love regardless of sex, color, or religion.
Time for the negative team.
I firmly disagree with what Ms. Calanta said to the legalization of same-sex marriage here in our country. First, we need to reiterate that we are opposing same-sex marriage, not same-sex relationship or same-sex unions. Same-sex marriage should not be legalized in the Philippines because same-sex marriage would eradicate the original meaning of a marriage, and we are just focusing on the Philippines only, where the Philippines does not offer any legal recognition to same-sex marriage. In this sense, we want to advocate. Advocate of what? We want to prolong the sanctity and the true definition of what marriage is. As Ms. Alves stated that we have a family code here in the Philippines that marriage should be between a man and a woman only. And when we speak of the sanctity of marriage, we mean to say that marriage is a holy and a sacred institution. Furthermore, the Philippines is principally a Christian country, particularly a Roman Catholic nation. Although there is a separation of the church and the state, the lawmakers of the Philippines consider morals derived from the Bible in legislating laws. Nowadays, homosexuality is a rising trend in the Philippines. With the rise of homosexuality, the question should same-sex marriage be legalized becomes more relevant. if we consider the fact that it is against a Filipino culture, morals, and tradition. Same-sex marriage should not be legalized in the Philippines, but if the Philippine government will legalize same-sex marriage, it would violate the religious freedom and the long-held morals of the majority. In addition to that, you cannot turn a moral wrong into a civil right. A marriage of a man and a woman is a civil right that is practiced until now. It is a law that cannot be changed just because a few people want to change it just to express their love to someone. As a matter of fact, a long time of wanting freedom for the LGBTQ plus community is given when in June 2019, the SOGI bill is approved by the Congress.
Time's up for the negative team.
We are now proceeding to the affirmative team.
In defense to what Ms. Estrada has said, we all know that same-sex marriage isn't accepted by the Catholics, but a lot of Catholic countries are in favor of same-sex marriage. Like Netherlands, 92% of them are in favor of same-sex marriage, which means that they are allowing gays and lesbians to marry legally. Same-sex marriage must be allowed regardless of religion. Same-sex marriage is one of the most controversial issues of our time. The reason why I and my team support same-sex marriage is because it serves the same purpose as straight marriage, which is to show love and commitment to one another. We believe that same-sex marriage should be recognized by law as valid. If we legalize same-sex marriage, all will be treated equally, and also, legalizing same-sex marriage wouldn't hurt anyone, so why not do it? We need to give everyone their civil rights. Legalizing wedding couples of same sex shows acceptance for people's right. It would be unfair to give the right of marriage only to heterosexual couples. Everyone should be able to marry who they want regardless of their gender. It would help if we become more open-minded as a society in treating everyone equally. We should not deny gay and lesbian couples the right to equality as human beings. It has been shown that legalizing same-sex marriage benefits not only individuals, but also the country as a whole. The benefits are to exercise freedom of choice, to control the population, to have an opportunity to adopt children from orphanages, and to practice human rights.
Moving forward to the negative team.
In defense of what Ms. Mayano has said, same-sex marriage should not be legalized here in the Philippines. Yet, because it would disturb the original meaning of marriage, it should not be the final point or springboard for advancing the LGBTQ plus agenda, and it would obstruct the state's ability to safeguard the LGBTQ community. Traditional marriage and family are devalued by same-sex marriage. Why should the law, our values, traditions, and nature be changed to accommodate something that is out of ordinary? The family is society's fundamental unit. What happens to society if a man alters the true core of marriage and a family? Because same-sex marriage has never been permitted in the Philippines, society has remained intact. No culture has ever embraced homosexuality has survived. Foremost, you are boys. Because same-sex marriage has never been permitted in the Philippines, society has remained intact. No culture that has ever embraced homosexuality has survived. Steve Largent once said, "If Philippines society is to prosper and survive, same-sex marriage must remain illegal." Aquinas wrote most extensively about natural law. He stated that the light of reason is placed by nature in every man to guide him in his acts. It employs the natural law theory of morality in order to explain that since what is natural is morally right and what is unnatural is morally wrong. Homosexual as an act is unnatural, hence it is morally wrong. Most people associate the called new natural law to conservative perceptions, and that makes sense when we speak about sexual morality. Authors like John Finnes, Germaine Greaves, and Robert George has been considered by their critics as major exponents of these lines of thoughts, which believe homosexuality as being something immoral and stands against same-sex marriage. So why would we legalize something that is considered as morally wrong?
Same-sex marriage debate, round 2.
The affirmative team.
It is indeed true that same-sex marriage is something that is out of the ordinary, but don't you think it's a bit harsh to restrict a person's freedom to love someone, especially of the same sexuality? As I previously stated, segregation is not equality. There are numerous reasons why our country, the Philippines, should legalize same-sex marriage, including morality, principle, and population growth. The first is moral sympathy. If same-sex marriage is a conflict of goods, as David Blakenhorn has noted, even people who believe the balance is in favor of same-sex marriage may wish to exhibit respect for those who disagree with them. Even staunch proponents of marriage, such as Blakenhorn, may be compelled to look for other methods to meet the needs of same-sex couples. Second, principle, by which I mean the conviction that traditional marriage supporters have a right to their beliefs and lifestyle which the law is bound to respect. Respect for religion as a right, respect for liberty in general as a right, and respect for conscience per se are three overlapping but conceptually separate ways of understanding the ideal being safeguarded. The distinction between the previous three justifications for religious accommodations I have stated and this final principle-based rationale is that principle binds. The first three reasons to accommodate are in some ways voluntary. They are gifts, not rights, and they are based on charity and prudence, not duty. The majority of people who believe in some worth prefer obligation to choice. Third and finally, population growth. Legalizing same-sex marriage could impede the country's population growth because homosexual couples are unable to produce children, causing them to adopt a child.
Time is up for Team Affirmative. Team Negative, you may now have up to 2 minutes to comment on Team Affirmative's presentation.
I beg to disagree with your statement that we oppose a person's freedom to love someone, especially those in a relationship of the same sexuality. We stated it clearly that we are opposing the legalization of same-sex marriage in our country as it's already been dismissed by lawmakers and Congress. That's why civil union and domestic partnership are offered to same-sex couples to still have the freedom to deepen their relationship if they want it so. A civil union is an act of a legally recognized union with rights similar to those of marriage, created originally for same-sex couples in jurisdictions where they were not legally allowed to marry. A domestic partnership is not something similar to marriage, but it can deliver the same benefits as a legal marriage does. We have these options to justify that same-sex marriage should not be legalized in our country. However, marriage is something that cannot be done by same-sex couples. It isn't about discriminating against them, but marriage is an act of two sexes who can form and build a family. We also disagree with your statement that law is bound to respect your principle, as the Family Code of the Philippines was done way back in 1987, and it's a respected act that every Filipino should follow to guide them to have a better family. The population growth is indeed something we should be aware of. Thus, even if same-sex couples don't have the right to be married in our country, they can still adopt children who need love and affection as stated in the Republic Act 8552, Domestic Adoption Act of 1998 and Section 2, Declaration of Policies, that it is hereby declared the policy of the state to ensure that every child remains under the care and custody of his or her parents and be provided with love, care, understanding, and security towards the full and harmonious development of his or her personality. In terms of morality, as what your claims mean, why should something uncommon be done in our country if it's already against the law?
Time for the affirmative team.
With regards to what Miss Alvis has said about how their team is not against same-sex relationship but does not agree with same-sex marriage, is oftenly used as a cliche to cover up how against they are to the LGBTQ plus community's appeal to have the same equal rights that men and women of their gender has, which is the right to marriage. Because if you truly agree and care for the people of the said community, then why are you opposing to their appeal? It's not like they have trampled people with it. With what Miss Alvis was suggesting about same-sex union is like blatantly displaying that the same-sex couples are way too different from normal heterosexual couples. Same-sex couples are being oppressed with the fact that they are being discriminated because of their choice of who to love, since the other team is constantly saying that marriage is not applicable to them just because they are being true to themselves and because they are showing the world who they really are. I am stating facts here together with a lot of sympathy to same-sex couples since it is truly harsh for people to think that they are different just because of their chosen genders. Ms. Alvis is continuously stating the Family Code of the Philippines, which was made several years ago. But today was a way more advanced, and as we all know that everything is constantly changing, especially the way how people think and live. And what I am trying to say here is for people to open their eyes and minds. It's the 21st century people. We must face the reality that things are regularly changing. Hence, to answer Ms. Alvis' question about why should something uncommon be done in our country if it's already against the law, it is because of what I have just mentioned regarding everything that are constantly changing. With what you have just asked, it is like you are stating that what the LGBTQ plus are appealing and feelings are uncommon and abnormal, which is a part of gender discrimination. In this era of highly enhanced society, it was clear that evolutions happen, including marriage equality that I am now raising to be a part of our legislation, since it is the same people with just different genders who are also capable of having family, caring for one another, and giving each other a sense of harmony in terms of loving the person of their own choices.
Moving forward to the negative theme.
Pertaining to what Ms. Calanta has said that we are against same-sex couples for their freedom to love, I'd like to state clearly that same-sex marriage is a way far from just the act of same-sex couples. Marriage is something that can build and create a family, a life. As a matter of fact, the LGBTQ plus community has not made the argument as to why they should be married, not just for their benefit, but for what the impact is on society and marriage as a whole, and on children. They made the argument as to why they want it, but they have not made any arguments as to why this is beneficial for society. They have not made any argument convincing or otherwise that I am aware of as to what the impact would be on heterosexual marriages and what the impact would be on the children. They have no studies, they have no information or whatsoever about what it would do to the moral ecology of the country, what it would do to the religious liberty, and what it would do to the mental and the physical health of children. With what Ms. Calanta said that same-sex couples are being discriminated because of their choice of love, since our theme is saying that marriage are not applicable to them, remember that marriage isn't something made out of mere personal interest. It is more than that. I believe that disagreement is not the same thing as discrimination. We are not just in favor of same-sex marriage, but that doesn't mean that we are discriminating the same-sex couples. I agree with you that we must face the reality that things are constantly changing, but we also have to think about the majority of people's opinions, feelings, and beliefs. Are the Filipino ready to legalize same-sex marriage here in the Philippines? Probably not. We have to internalize more carefully. We have to think of others. We have to do something not just for the sake of ourselves, but also for the other people. We must remember that it is a matter of our beliefs and our country's reflections.
Time's up for the negative theme, and now proceeding to the affirmative theme.
I would like to answer what Ms. Estrada has said about marriage, that marriage is something that can build and create a family. I'd like to say that a married same-sex couple can create and build a family too. As what I have said a while ago about the benefits of same-sex marriage, that a married same-sex couples can adopt children from orphanages. And they can also have a family through surrogacy, in vitro fertilization, or artificial insemination. Ms. Estrada also stated that their team does not criticize or discriminate same-sex marriage. They just do not agree on making it legal. I'd like to tell Ms. Estrada that by saying that same-sex couples can't build or create a family is already a discrimination. Marriage can also be done by gays and lesbians because it is a union of people as partners and it is their personal relationship. And that is the true meaning of marriage. It is a union of two people. It is not stated that it is a union of a man and woman only. Same-sex couples are also humans, so why they can have their rights. Same-sex marriage must be allowed because it is essential to prevent and protect against violence, discrimination, and other harmful gender stereotypes. We can really see that our society is still closed-minded, that some Filipinos that are same-sex couples still need to go to other countries where same-sex marriage is legal just to be married because they might be discriminated by a lot of people here. I don't think we aren't ready because as we can see now that there are a lot of Filipinos, same-sex couples that are married and nothing changed. I mean, it didn't even hurt us. In fact, they are happily married.
Response of the negative team.
I disagree with Ms. Muyana's statement that gays have no rights if same-sex marriage is not legalized, since first and foremost, marriage is a privilege, not a right. There are a lot of reasons why we should not legalize same-sex marriage here in the Philippines, for the reason that HIV will increase further. Same-sex marriage in South Africa has been legal since way back November 30, 2006, up to present when Civil Union Act is approved by their Congress. South Africa has the highest number of people living with HIV in the world with 7.5 million cases. So if when we legalize same-sex marriage here in our country also tends to increase our HIV cases. Additionally, it could affect parenting. Their children might experience bullying. Let's say it was legalized. Would the view of the people about gay marriage will change? Legalization, it doesn't change the stand of most of the people because the majority have religion. And their children could meet these people. Even though there is a law that could protect both the child and the parents, the psychological and emotional damage was already done. Furthermore, homosexual tends to be more sexually promiscuous because the reason between their bond is the need for physical contact. There is a big chance of getting a divorce of homosexual couples without thinking it first truly. Thus, divorce isn't yet legalized in the country. But why would someone get married in the first place when it will just lead to divorce? It will just ruin the sacredness of marriage. Marriage isn't made for anyone. Most to those considered as uncommon in society. Marriage is a sacred and it should be sacred. Therefore, this house is against in the motion.
Same-sex marriage debate round 3. Affirmative team standpoint.
The world is evolving more than ever, and we need to keep up with times. As for the risk of increasing case of HIV, people nowadays are more mindful and educated on how they can prevent having HIV. DOH and PNAC are doing their job to spread awareness and assist people with the said disease. And I beg to disagree with regards to what Mr. Apornida says that it could affect parenting. Because love comes in any form. Homosexual parents can provide the love and support that a heterosexual parents can give to a child. Yes, it is very unusual to have parents with the same sex, but there are research studies show that children with two moms or two dads fare just as well as children with heterosexual parents. In fact, one comprehensive study of children raised by lesbian mothers or gay fathers concluded that children raised by same-sex parents did not differ from other children in terms of emotional functioning, sexual orientation, stigmatization, gender role behavior, behavioral adjustments, gender identity, learning and grade point averages. Where research differences have been found, they have sometimes favored same-sex parents. We should not shun the concept of same-sex marriage anymore. All of us are human beings at the end of the day. Before labeling each other with the religion we follow or the people we choose to love, everyone must realize this fact and act like it. Same-sex marriage is more than important in today's time as the world is progressing. Same-sex marriage gives the other people hope that they can also have a future. In addition, it paves a brighter path for the LGBTQ community. This community has already suffered enough due to discrimination. They deserve to be able to marry whomever they wish, irrespective of gender or sex.
Time is up for Team Affirmative. Team Negative, you may now have up to 2 minutes to comment on Team Affirmative's presentation.
Your assumption of us being against the same-sex relationship because of saying that same-sex marriage is unnatural is not very pleasantly appropriate. Ms. Lawan agrees with it and claimed that it is very unusual to have parents with the same sex. You're constantly speaking about research but don't have enough claims to prove that your account should be legalized, which is why my team was constantly speaking about facts and laws. The state has already done its part to give the LGBTQ plus community its freedom of rights and support them. Respect for civil rights that can affect most Filipinos won't hurt a little, isn't it? Even if we're in the 21st century, a law that was created before shouldn't be questioned because we believe that no one is above the law. Marriage is a divine law that shouldn't be done just because of merely personal interest. I disagree with Ms. Lawan that an infected person with HIV from a same-sex couple can affect parenting and claim that it is because love comes in any form. Love is not a justifiable answer for all of your claims. Adopting a child comes with different acts that adopting parents could give them. Being infected with HIV, mostly in same-sex couples, appears to alleviate fears about morality and ill health. Studies claim that same-sex marriage is an act questioning morality and the civil union is a perfect choice to be done for same-sex couples. In fact, our current President Rodrigo Duterte and Vice President Leni Robredo supports the LGBTQ plus community but does not agree on legalizing same-sex marriage in the country. They support recognition of civil union instead. At present, 2 bills about civil unions are pending in the House of Representatives. If the bills becomes law, both heterosexual and same-sex couples can opt for civil unions, which would give them the same benefits as marriage, such as adoption, separation, security insurance, labor benefits, and privilege and tax laws. It's indeed a great idea for both heterosexual and homosexual couples not to intervene and question a divine law.
Now proceeding to the affirmative team.
With what you have just said, that the laws have already given the LGBTQ plus communities their freedom of rights, which is only the rights of freely expressing who they really are, is just a mere bare minimum, Miss Alvis. With what you have said about respecting civil rights won't hurt, then the same-sex marriage approval will hurt anyone's ego? Surely not. With what you are trying to say about parenting of homosexual couples is definitely disagreeable. Parenting depends on the characteristics and way of parenting of an individual or a couple and not on their genders. Anyone can stand as a parent as long as he or she is responsible and a loving one. Most of homosexual parents are well off and capable of providing a comfortable life to children since it is really expensive to do artificial insemination or in vitro fertilization, which is a matter that they can afford and a way where LGBTQ plus people can produce their own babies. Do you know why Philippines is still considered as a poor country? It is because of poverty that kills the dreams of the children because of their heterosexual parents who cannot provide for them, in addition to the problem of the highly populated yet poor country, which is our country. And to answer your words with HIV issue, do you think that only homosexual couples can pass HIV to one another? Then you got it all wrong, Miss Alvis. For your information, HIV came from a type of chimpanzee in Central Africa because of a man who absurdly engaged in sexual intercourse with the said animal. Therefore, with what you have stated that HIV is mostly from homosexual couples is a wrong information. Yes, through anal sex, which is often done by gays, have high risk of infection, but don't you also think that a man and a woman also does anal sex? And lastly, for the whole time of the debate, you have kept on insisting civil union when what we are trying to defend is same-sex marriage. LGBTQ plus people deserve same rights with what heterosexual couple have, which is the right to marriage. We won't settle for less and with what you only want for us. We want what we want. It is either you give it to us or we will keep on appealing over and over until it is approved because again, we deserve what we deserve.
Overtime to the affirmative team and now proceeding to the negative team.
As previously stated, I am hereby standing for or against same-sex marriage. And I would like to say again that marriage is defined as the union of a man and a woman only. And to change that, it would go against natural law and risk undermining both the institution of marriage and the family's role in holding the society together. There are civil partnerships available for the LGBTQ+, but marriage is too far, Miss Kalanta. You are defending same-sex marriage but don't have any argument as to why this is beneficial to our society. Basically, the argument you've made is, we want what we want. It's either they give it to us or we will keep on appealing over and over until it is approved because again, we deserve what we deserve. You know, Miss Kalanta, it's obvious that there are some gays and lesbians that are not in favor of same-sex marriage, even though they are part of the LGBTQ plus community, since they accept the fact that they are already on the union between same-sex relationship. If we will be able to accept the same-sex marriage in our country, then we should also accept abortion, immorality, and other things in the world that is not acceptable. Moreover, the changes in the law will remove the terms mother and the father from a civil code, weakening the rights of the heterosexual families. Same-sex marriage runs fundamentally counter to many people's religious views. To legalize it, it would offend deeply held beliefs and further erode the key role religion plays as a moral bedrock in society. Also, if same-sex marriage will legalize, polygamous marriages would have to legalize too. But there are always limits to rights. Legalization would be another step towards the mainstreaming of homosexuality in society. To end this, I just want to say that nobody is stopping LGBTQ plus community from loving each other or staying in a relationship. But that does not mean they can marry. This is my or our stand for the people and for the community to fully understand, and that we are opposing on legalizing the same-sex marriage here in our country, which is the Philippines.
Rebut of the affirmative team.
Since Ms. Estrada said that we are defending same-sex marriage without having any arguments why this is beneficial to our society as she opposed to same-sex marriage, I am here to tell you why same-sex marriage is beneficial to our society. We already know what the LGBTQ plus community is to gain when same-sex marriage is legalized. What we don't usually know and what we should be finding out is how it can actually benefit society in general. Here are the reasons why it is beneficial to our society. First is a more accepting society. A culture that is more welcoming and less discriminatory benefits everyone. When we support the rights of a social minority group, such as the LGBTQ+, we are also paving the way for other cultural, political, and other minority groups. Genuine homosexual freedom can inspire liberation trends that can make our society more stable, just as racial equality led to growth of women's liberation. Furthermore, acknowledging the legality of homosexual relationship by allowing them to marry reduces homophobia and violence against the community. By normalizing the nature of same-sex relationship, we are creating a society that's more accepting, more diverse, and in effect, more democratic. Second, LGBTQ plus empowerment. It is to general society's benefit when homosexuals win the battle for basic equality. Most LGBTQ plus people dedicate their lives to the struggle for gender equality, thus they are not given the chance to grow as a productive members of society. If they are just given this basic right to marry, then they can rechannel their dedication and resources to things that can help the society even more. Third, rearing mentally untainted children. Because the stigma associated with being gay, children with gay parents are also subjected to bullying. It has long been established that bullying induces damaging effects on children. By legalizing same-sex marriage, we are rearing mentally untainted children that can grow up to be successful individuals capable of bringing development to the society as a whole. By staging gender equality, we are securing the next generation.
Last speaker for the negative team.
Ms. Muyano, allowing same-sex marriage in our country has more disadvantages than benefits. It affects more than it helps. There are several factors to consider before legalizing same-sex marriage. First, it affects the adoption process. There will be an increase in the number of child adoption applications by allowing married homosexual couples to legally adopt children, given that they may find it difficult and expensive to conceive 8 children of their own. As a result of, more straight couples who want to adopt may overlook since they have a better possibility of having their own children. Despite the legalization of homosexual marriage, it will continue to be a divisive topic, since not everyone can or will embrace the idea of two persons of the same gender marrying in the religious ceremony. Second, the possibility of tax increase. The government may incur additional costs as a result of tax benefits to be offered to surviving legal partners. Some believe that as a result of legalization of same-sex marriage and increased tax benefits, the government will be forced to raise taxes to cover these additional costs. Third, it has an impact on marriage's genuine meaning. Another disadvantage of homosexual marriage is that it may diminish the relevance of marriage in our societies over time. If everyone is free to marry in variety of ways, the basic concept of marriage may become obsolete. As a result of, the notion of marriage as a whole may become obsolete over time. So allowing same-sex marriage is not a good idea because it would affect a lot of people, not just LGBTQ community, but everyone in society. The homosexual community should respect and accept the marriage isn't for everyone. And so, why do you want to legalize something that has a bad impact on our society?
The end of rebuttals.
Thank you to both teams for a great round. Both teams have done a very good job in presenting their arguments. Please be patient while they compute your final scores. Thank you. May I have everyone's attention now, please? I will now announce the results for today's debate. Remember that the winner will be the team that has the highest score. And the winner for this match with a score of 26 points is Team Negative. Congratulations. Congratulations to both teams for a great match. That's all for our team's debate. Thank you for your participation. Keep safe and have a good day, everyone.
Thank you for watching. Let us continue spreading love to all.